All right, good morning, everyone. We're kind of going to let everyone kind of roll in here, get everyone admitted, and then we'll be starting the webinar in just a couple of minutes.
Well, my package said 25, there was only 14 of those jokers in there. Exactly.
All right, we're going to give everyone just another minute to kind of roll in here, and then we'll get started. All right, well, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is having a great start to their new year. I see we have some more people heading into the waiting room, so I'm going to admit them, let all of them roll in. Really excited to have everyone joining us for our January installment of our Outdoor Florida webinar series. Like I said, I hope everyone is having a great start to their new year and enjoying hopefully the cool weather that's kind of passing over the entire state of Florida, which is a very nice change of pace. We are really, really excited for today's presentation, but before we kind of jump in, I want to take this time to introduce our speaker. Our speaker today is going to be Rob Barrett. He is just had a life full of outdoor recreation and a life full of conservation. Rob actually began his career here in Florida with the Florida Park Service back in 2011. He really has always had a fondness for outdoors, and as a teen and in his early 20s actually worked at a wildlife rehabilitation and education center, which was always a dream of mine. I know as a kid visiting those places, I would kill to have someone pay me to work there. Rob has really worn so many different hats throughout his career, whether it was from working at the Tallahassee Museum or being a park ranger and as the program manager for the interpretive services section of the Florida State Parks. Today, Rob works as the national coordinator of the First Day Hikes program, a position that he's held since 2019. We're really excited to have Rob join us to kind of talk about the First Day Hikes program and everything First Day Hikes. So I'll kind of let him do what he does best, and I'll let Rob go ahead and take the floor.
Thank you so much, Michaela. It's a pleasure to be back with my Florida family now that I live up in Tennessee. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and make sure we don't take up too much of people's time today. So hope everybody's staying warm there. I hear it's a little bit cooler than it is traditionally. I actually miss the winter a little bit. That's one of the reasons I love the taste of winter, but not to have it all year round. So as Michaela said, my part-time gig is as the national coordinator for First Day Hike, but I am currently also serving as the director of interpretive programming and education for Tennessee State Parks. I've been up here since February 16th. And, you know, there's nothing quite like moving in the middle of the pandemic and then getting snowed in your first week of work in a basement apartment Airbnb, all while trying to wrap up First Day Hikes from 2021. Although this year's First Day Hikes did not disappoint in that. So I want to go ahead and start off with a little bit of background information about what First Day Hikes is. Also talk about how you can participate in First Day Hikes if it's appropriate for your site and it's something you want to try. We're also going to talk a little bit about how park memories are built and how those spur stewardship. And then we're going to wrap up with a little bit about the coordination details and also some communication techniques that we've employed for first day hikes to reach out to people who might not otherwise feel that hiking is for them. At any time, if you have a question, pop it into the chat. I'll check with Michaela every so often, and we'll have time at the end as well. So first day hikes, where did it begin and how? There is the Blue Hills Reservation, which is managed by the Massachusetts State Park System. And in 1992, they did the first quote unquote official first day hike. Now, before then, had human beings hiked on January 1st? I am certain of it, but they branded it as a first day hike. And they had 380 people show up. So I think what this really shows is that people are looking for things to do on New Year's Day. So there's capacity. You know, you kind of, the day after Christmas, a lot of people go and return the presents they don't like. The day after Thanksgiving, a lot of people go shopping or they opt outside. But there was kind of this recreation void on this one day. So America's State Park stepped in, and in the world of interpretation, we sometimes call it stealing, but our friends in Arkansas State Parks call it honoring when you take somebody else's program idea. So we like that a lot better. So America's State Parks honored the idea, and the program grew to 45 state park systems participating in 2020. Sometimes we market that all states will be participating, but sometimes we don't always have a strong coordinator for a state, and 85,000 people showed up. So from a simple hike in 1992 to before the pandemic in 2020, we went from 380 people at one site to 85,000 people at various sites. And you can see parks get creative. New Hampshire made selfie frames for people to take pictures with. There's pet-friendly hikes. You can see this hike here in the upper corner, which is in, I want to say, New Jersey. The people just go on forever. Here in Minnesota, it's a snowshoe hike. Here, we have people climbing dunes. I'm sure they're stable dunes and are safe for people to climb, unlike our beach dunes here in Florida. We have people traversing through woods. We have happy conversations going on. This is a great hike that the people in Tennessee did before I joined them, which was a lantern-led hike, which is a really, really creative idea to give people another way to engage with your site. And then, of course, we also have our historical site hikes. So you have all of these people, and they're trying to figure out, I'm in Anchorage, Alaska. How do I do a first day hike on New Year's Day? It's cold, the weather's unpredictable, people don't want to be outside, but they're finding ways. So to give you a little bit of history of what first day hikes is and how America's State Parks is organized, America's State Parks is set up with the directors of all of the state park systems. It is a professional organization that's managed as a 501c3, and Louis Ledford is the executive director, and the retired state parks director of Arkansas, Grady, oh my goodness, his last name just slipped my mind. It'll come to me in a moment. But he is the acting president. So through working with this organization, they help state park systems host things like our volunteer conferences, where we get our volunteer coordinators together. They support interpretive coordination across the states. And they also provide a platform for current and former directors to strategize about state park and recreation as a whole. So you may be saying, hey, Rob, this is great information. I don't work at a state park. Well, as the program has grown, we've expanded America to be North America's park system and have invited Canada to participate. So we've had a few sites in Canada participate. And then we have also had local recreation say, hey, we want to do a first day hike. Would you mind including us in your communications? So when we come out of the pandemic, or when we just adapt to, this is our life now, we got to move on with it and figure it out. We are going to be expanding communications both to Canada and hopefully to Mexico. And we'll also be including municipal and county recreation organizations that have hiking opportunities. So how does it work? Well, ideally in August, I would send out a coordinator's toolkit. This year it happened a little bit later. I'm sure everybody is sharing that common experience of not quite hitting the deadlines. So the last time we sent out a full media blitz was 2020. That's why I've included the 2020 First Day Hikes toolkit here. But we have sent out a toolkit for 2021 and 2022. The reason we haven't been doing full media blitzes is pretty obvious, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But in there, it's a step-by-step participation guide, has sample press releases, a swag order form. So we have the logo as pins, hiking stick medallions. At one point in time, we had beanies, but we scrapped the beanies. We have keychains, and state park systems can order those. And a trend that's recently begun has been to make I hiked stickers, similar to the I voted stickers. And the idea is to begin buzz for next year. So I really see us focusing on that sticker initiative for next year and creating I hiked First Day Hikes stickers and passing those out to sites. There are also example hikes to inspire people to get creative with what they do, talking points to really share the mission of America's state parks, recreation in general, and First Day Hikes, and also a state coordinator's checklist. So if right now you're going, I want to be involved, but I want it to be a light lift and I don't want to have to think that hard, don't worry, this toolkit is for you. There's about 8 steps to participate. They're all timed out and you get reminders. So how do we reach out to people and communicate to them the value of First Day Hikes? How do we conceptualize one person hiking multiplied across 85,000 people and have it hit home to somebody, to really inspire media to pick up the press releases, to kind of create some buzz? So we started coming up with some fun steps, and we did some math magic and discovered that the 85,000 participants in 2020 took 417 million steps that day. And for some reason, I don't know why, we all got obsessed with the number of steps we take in a day a few years ago. That was equivalent to 7.11 trips around the equator. So it really helps people, really triggers that imagination for them to be thinking, okay, I can see people walking down a trail, but oh wait, it would be like one person walking around the equator over 7 times. And then this is always my favorite because it ties in so well to New Year's resolutions and people thinking about healthier lifestyles and also wanting to enjoy a cheeseburger. So the First Day Hike participants in 2020 burned the calories that were equivalent to 41,000 cheeseburgers. So just kind of those stats broken down in the plain Jane numbers. There were 1,300 hikes. There were 63 people per hike on average. So not the 380 we saw with the first one in Massachusetts, but still pretty darn well. There were 132 miles collaboratively hiked per hike. So that was the equivalency if we added up the miles everybody hiked. And that led to a total of 177,000 miles. So for the individual, if we're breaking it down to the granular level, if we took the miles hiked and divided it by the participants, we know that the average hiker got out there and moved for 2 miles. They traversed some terrain somehow for 2 miles, and that in that 2 miles, they took almost 5,000 steps. Now you're saying, Rob, it's crazy. How do you know this? How can you say people were burning cheeseburgers when they were hiking? So it's some pretty simple math equations. You set them up in Excel and let it do the rest. So you take the steps per mile for the average person. which is all researchable online, and you multiply that by the total miles hiked. Miles around the equator, you take the miles hiked and divide that by the miles around the equator. That one's pretty self-explanatory. The calories per burger got a little bit tricky. So what we had to do here was we had to figure out how many calories there were per burger. Luckily, fast food organizations have to publish that information now. Then we multiplied that by the miles burned by the calories burned per mile for the average American who weighs 155 pounds. I wish I weighed 155 pounds. That was the number we used, and I'll show you how we got there. And then we did the inverse of miles to clear out, so we got to the right number of burgers. So miles around the equator, you can research that, and we can argue with, surveyors, whether it's 24,901 or 24,903, but for the average American, it helps them kind of conceptualize it. So the steps per mile, we'll share these links with you. There are various calculators. This is the one I used to determine these items. And of course, don't web pages always load slower when you're presenting? So you can put in the person's height. So I Googled average American height, pop that in, and the gait on these is normally a slow walk. It's not very brisk. And then you can put in the total number of steps, hit calculate, and in 10,000 steps, a 5'9" person travels 4.46 miles. So you can see, going back here, 2.8 miles works out about right. So let me navigate back to that. Lots of fun, easy tools. You can do miles to steps. And you can also do it in kilometers for our friends up in Canada. Another fun resource that I've used a lot in my career is the NutriStrategy page. This is data for calories burned by common activities, and it has them broken up by recreational and home activities. It's pretty old information, but luckily this doesn't change too much. And actually, I think we used 180 pound person. I'm sorry, they used to only have 130, 155, and 205, but they added 180 a few years ago. And so you can see there's various rates of speed for mountain biking, for stationary biking, stair machine, rowing machine, aerobics, really kind of some user-based recreations. But then as you go down, you get more and more into the resource-based recreations, which hiking is. Horseback riding, martial arts, lacrosse, polo, shuffleboard, and lawn bowling. Apparently those are different activities, but burn about the same amount of calories. And they even have birding on here. Bird watching burns calories, believe it or not. If you are trying to recruit coaches, they have coaching information in here, canoeing for various things. So these are where we got the numbers to determine the calories burned for an amount of activity, and then times it times the miles. Great little resource that I've used a lot. And then of course, this one I almost don't even need to go to, but here are the calories in a cheeseburger. And that's what we used for our metric to measure out how many calories were burned. And then the last one is, I don't like to say the word average American because who is that person and where are they? But when I say average, I mean statistical average. So you add up all the numbers, divide it by the total number of people, and the average adult man is 5'9", weighs 199.8 pounds, and has a waist circumference of 40.5 inches. The average adult woman is it's 5'3" rather, 170 pounds, and has a waist circumference of 38.7. So now you can see if you take the average adult man, the average adult woman, it works out to about 180. And I think with this data, that's why NutriStrategy added the 180 category for using those numbers. You can get really creative with how you communicate your statistics and your achievements. And we did notice that as we began to communicate this way, our articles and our information got picked up by more sites. More so than just being like, 85,000 people hiked at 1,600 hikes. It was great. So 2020 was a great year, best year ever. Most sites populating the webpage with data, great communications. We had a lot of partners picking up. We had other organizations joining us. And then for some reason, we got really lazy for 2021. I can't remember what it was, but we went from 1,600 sites to about 600 sites participating. And a lot of those were just come to the park and hike today. So some people pivoted by just opening up an invitation to do self-guided hikes. The idea behind First Day Hikes is we want to give people that safe person to go hiking with so that they can experience nature. And if they aren't used to that, that they feel like it's a protected environment. But we understood. We had some people do virtual hikes. So watch this video, walk around the block, and tell us about your experience. And then, of course, we had masked hikes. But then a lot of sites were just, no, it's too much at this point. We are already seeing record visitation. We don't feel we can manage it. And we adapted the program to suit that because I didn't want anybody being unsafe and I didn't want to be unsafe myself. So for this past year, we've had a bit of a pickup. We've almost doubled the number of hikes from 2021. I'm still collecting data on that. People have discovered ways around it. We know now that if you're outside and you're further out, but the hikes have been smaller. So we're no longer trying to get those 200 plus person hikes. What we're really focused on is pre-registration, keeping the numbers small, keeping people engaged. The problem with that is it loses sight of the initial purpose of First Day Hikes, which was to get people who might not otherwise go to a state park to come to a state park and build a system of lifelong recreation. So speaking of that, I want everybody to pull out a sheet of paper. Hopefully you're sitting at a place where you have a sheet of paper. If you don't, you can just imagine it. And I want you to draw on this sheet of paper your earliest park memory. Now you're saying, wait, Rob, wait, I'm no artist. The good news is birds can look like that. They also work as mountains. And people can look like that because the only reason we're drawing it is to trigger other places in your memory to help you remember the experience. So if everybody just wants to take a couple minutes and draw your earliest park memory. Doesn't have to be a state park. And when you're done, I forgot to clear this with you, Michaela, but if you want to share, turn on your camera and we'll ask you to hold your picture up to the camera and tell us about your first park memory. And if not, we'll make Michaela share.
Okay. All right.
All right, Robert.
I didn't want to. I'm not an artist, but the Dead Space, I do have a lot of really good park memories. So this is my non-artistic rendering, but some of my earliest memories were actually in one of those old-timey rigid frame kid carrier backpacks with both, I think my father and my mother took turns hiking with us, but we hiked pretty much everywhere we lived. We moved around a lot. We did hike in Florida state parks, and I think some of the earliest memories were in the Tallahassee area, and then actually we moved to Hawaii. So we definitely had some amazing hikes there, which even if I don't really remember it, I've seen some pictures. So I know I was kicking around, not pulling my weight, but that's my memory.
Awesome, Robert. And what do you do now professionally?
I am the Florida state coordinator with the East Coast Greenway Alliance. So I actually
Very
just
cool.
started the position. I'm excited to get to work with everyone here. I've signed up for the Outdoor Florida webinar series. Obviously, there's a lot of overlap with what we're doing in the state. So yes, thanks for having me today.
Awesome. Thank you for coming. And it's always good to see another RB.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Does anybody else want to step up and share?
All right. I will share, maybe make people feel more comfortable with the fact that I am not an artist as well. Stick figures and trees that look like ice cream are my go-to. So this is my little, we'll see if it'll,
There you
there
go.
we go. One of my earliest very distinct memories is my family every winter would go up to the Knoxville area in Tennessee, and we would go hiking in Smoky Mountains. And I remember that was the first time I saw snow. And as a young girl growing up in South Florida my entire life, who thought snow was just something you saw in really cool Christmas movies, it was amazing. I remember being just like enthralled by it and was so confused, but as a kid, I was just amazed. And I have year after year and so many vivid memories of going back to Smoky Mountain National Park, and can very quickly cite that as the reason why I now work for the Florida Department of Environmental Protection.
Excellent. You've already teased my theory. All right. Does anybody else want to share? Okay.
I'll take
Don't
one real
worry.
quick.
Perfect.
I'm kind of a guest here, so I don't know if you guys can see this.
Yes.
This is four people, and one of my earliest memories was doing Torreya State Park. We did a day hike and saw the Gregory House, if I remember right. I don't think I was knee high at that point, but great hike here in Florida.
Excellent. And you are now working with a bunch of recreation professionals. So that might have inspired you to, you're with Oracle, so communication mainly.
I am.
Yes, yep. Excellent. Thank you, David, for joining us and sharing your memory. And my last question for you is, do you take people recreating now? Do you have children in your life, whether nieces, nephews, friends, or children, and you take them out to have park experiences?
I do.
Yeah.
Both of my girls are in college now, one at FSU and one at UF. So
Congrats.
have them both in Florida schools, and yeah, certainly try to get out and try to find ways. You know, I like to get out and take pictures. So I've just joined this as a private individual, just trying to understand. I love to hike and encourage other ways, you know, to get people out there.
Very good. It's almost like we paid you to be here, because I'm going to talk about you and your experience conceptually. I haven't met you before.
No, and I hate to tell you this, I have to jump. I've got a 10:30 that I've got to be on another video for a client. But I look forward to joining these and was glad to participate. I wasn't sure how long this was, but thank you guys for putting this on.
Thank you. Have a great one.
Thank you.
All right. So we'll go back to the presentation. And I see somebody else turned on their camera. Did you want to share? Looks like you're trying to unmute. Michaela, can you help out McCook E? Oh, nope.
Okay, I'm unmuted now.
Okay, there you go, sir. Were you looking for your unmute button to share?
No, actually, I just turned my camera on. I thought everybody had their camera on, but
Oh,
I will
okay.
tell you about hiking. I have two grandsons, and I've been hiking with them for about 3 or 4 years. Started out when the oldest was about 5, 6 years old, and lots of great memories. I'm also a conservation photographer. I'm a
Nice.
land manager with Swanee River Water Management District, and we're continuously talking about my youngest grandson, who is 7 now, says when we're going hiking again. So lots of great memories, and one of our favorite parks to hike at here is Swanee River State Park, and we just have a wonderful time hiking there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you for not only working in the field, but also having your pastime be in the field and propagating recreation.
Yeah, I manage the
So-
recreation for the district.
Very, very nice. Beautiful, beautiful area there. So I'll share a little bit of my journey. Similar to Robert, I grew up all over. I was a military brat. And when I was 5 years old, I had the good fortune to drive across the country with my family from Virginia to California, because we were moving there, and we stopped at Yellowstone. And park rangers became my superheroes. These were people out there who love nature, who want other people to love nature, and who make you have a great time while you're in it. So fortunately, I got to grow up to become a ranger, but I had a lot of experiences that helped me do that. So I was born in Germany, and if you've ever been to the Alps along the German-Austrian border, there is a tradition of hiking stick medallions. And so you get this cane with a special tip for grabbing onto the rocks, and you go out hiking in the Alps. So these are actually family canes. I have them from before my family immigrated to the United States. And I also have them from after my family was here and went back to visits to Germany. So cut forward to baby Robbie all grown up, and I am now on my 3rd hiking stick, very slowly filling them up with the much larger American version of hiking stick medallions, because it's America, we make things bigger. And I'll stop my background. So this is how I build memories. But I build these memories because I remember going to my grandparents and my aunts and uncles' houses, and in every house there was a cane like this with medallions on it. And I remember imagining the places. So that gets me to a point of the stewardship staircase. So as I was talking with David, he said, I'm not a recreation professional. I'm just a recreation professional enthusiast. But what he was telling me is at some point in his journey through experiencing parks and trails and outdoor recreation, he went from understanding about it to caring about it so much that he is taking time out of his workday to attend this webinar. And I feel it won't be long before he's joining a friends group, going to public meetings, donating, and really moving into that stewardship level. So not currently, but a few years back, recreation, people were kind of scratching their heads and being like, why this? Why not go-karts? Why not zip lines? Why not all these other things? Why outdoor recreation? And why not more baseball diamonds? Love all of those things. They're great things to participate in. But those are not things that people want to adopt and take on and into their own lives. The benefits of outdoor recreation is that they reconnect people. They recreate experiences from their childhood that they can share forward, just as Mr. McCook was talking about. And also they build lifelong career paths, which is the ultimate level of stewardship, in my opinion. I may be biased, for people like Robert and Michaela. So where do we get people on this path to becoming recreation stewards? And what is their first step with that? The idea of first day hikes, it is a recreation path that will lead them to stewardship. The idea is we want to recruit new stewards, and we acknowledge that they may jump paths and change courses and go from trail to trail throughout their experience to eventually becoming stewards. So here in Tennessee, we've adopted kind of a little mission statement, a sub-mission statement, a vision statement for what it is my team does in interpretive programming and education. And what we say is every park experience, whether recreation, interpretation, or education, moves a visitor closer to becoming a steward and improves our ability to turn our missions into reality. So I changed the subject from Tennessee State Parks to our missions, because I hope you all adopt that for yourselves if you are a land manager and you provide recreation. And people say, well, why recreation? Why are we investing money in this? Isn't having the site enough? Isn't managing the resource more important? Don't we got to burn? Don't we got to manage the hydrology? And we do. But if we don't recruit stewards, if we don't prepare the next generation to take care of these places, then it doesn't matter what we do today. So that is why we do recreation, because it builds stewards and it ensures the continued support of the sites we serve. Sorry, I get a little emotional and a little bit, so I'm going to step back a bit. Now, how do we communicate that to people who are like, Rob, that's touchy-feely, I don't care about that. What's happening in the now? So some things we're working on here in my state of Tennessee now is really categorizing the returns of recreation into 5 categories. Conservation, to emblematize this, we chose the tulip poplar because it is both a state symbol and a natural resource. So it's a cultural and natural resource here in Tennessee. There are management returns. So by providing programming, we are able to make our managing our sites easier. There are, of course, financial returns. There are health returns, both emotional and physical health returns. But most importantly, we are a community driver and a social engine for positive change within the state. So that's why social is bolded. That's why it's in the center, and that's why it's larger than the others. So to go into a little bit of how we categorize this and how we communicate this to others is we're working with parks to identify how to create an if-then statement that is tied to data and has a dollar amount or management gain tied to it. So an example is students who participate in programs which include trauma-informed learning, it's a type of environmental education that we're teaching our rangers, are better able to practice self-regulation in the classroom. We have statistical data that says this. Self-regulated students are more likely to promote to the next grade on time. We know that. Schools tell us this. Students who graduate on time make $250,000 more in their lifetime than non-graduates. So the sites are all there, and we find that to be a really tangible piece for anyone to find value in and support environmental education. Health. Students who participate in environmental education, which is a form of recreation, believe it or not, have increased science scores and therefore require less classroom intervention. In Tennessee, classroom intervention averages $507 per student, or $480 million annually. So by providing children experiences in the outdoors, where they have to learn to manage themselves and gain hard skills that they can take back to the classroom, we are reducing the state's burden of classroom intervention dollars. Incorporating volunteer recruitment into programs helps the state offset its workforce costs and achieve projects more quickly. Also, individuals who volunteer are 27% more likely to gain regular employment than those who don't. And Tennessee currently provides $275 per week in unemployment benefits to individuals. And in November 2021, there were 134,000. So volunteering just doesn't give people something to do on a weekday or on a weekend or come to a volunteer event. It just doesn't help us achieve projects faster, but it actually helps reduce unemployment by giving people skills that they can take into the workforce. Just 2 more of these. If a program promotes physical activity and includes time spent in nature, It supports healthy weights, reduces blood pressure, and improves mental health. I think we've all known that for years, but we kind of stopped there. That's where the period goes. We're like, it helps this way. So the way we've expanded it is this can help the 50% of adults who aren't physical enough and the 50% of adults who have a chronic disease. This helps reduce the burden on the state's healthcare system because the annual per capita health spending in Tennessee is more than $7,500. So every Tennessean spends more than $7,500 on average, or has that spent on them for healthcare costs in the state. And there are more than 1.5 million people in the state of Tennessee on subsidized healthcare. So outdoor recreation improves our subsidized healthcare numbers. And management. If a program incorporates watercraft education, we know that 70% of boating incidents occur by operators with no boater safety training, and 65% of recreational boating deaths are a result of not wearing a life jacket. So wearing a life jacket reduces the occurrence of search and rescue missions. And the National Park Service averages $1,400 spent per search and rescue mission for a total budget of $5 million. So not only can we save lives through boater education programs, it's worth investing money in those to provide high quality ones, because the more people who are safe, the fewer times we have to go out on rescues. So those are some things we're going to be incorporating into the communications for the future of First Day Hikes. And I wanted to share them with you because we're going to be creating a list here in Tennessee for our parks to use, so that as we do a program value assessment, we can attach these things and really be able to demonstrate the gains that we make, both emotional and social, but also the tangible ones that we make through recreation. So that's my presentation today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I'd love to take a couple questions.
All right. Well, thank you, Rob, for that very, very informative and educational presentation. I know I learned a ton, and I think a lot of us, we kind of just assume that outdoor recreation is important, but getting down to the details and the nitty-gritty of why it's important is so key. I do see one question in the chat already. Beth asks, will the First Day Hike guide package be available to local entities who manage resource lands?
Yes, definitely. So what we'll do is, when we talk about statewide coordinators, that is per state park system, because that's where the program began. As we've branched out, I think looking for offices like Michaela's to send out the communications will be a great way to do it. But also, Michaela's going to send out a follow-up email with my contact. If you just shoot me an email and say, hey, Rob, I'd like to be added to the communications list, I will copy and paste your email into a spreadsheet. And when I send it out next year in August or September, you will get it then.
Perfect. And
Thank you, Beth.
Going off of that, I would say, running a nationwide and international program like the First Day Hikes program can be a little bit crazy. I think to a lot of people, it seems like such an amazing feat to be able to run that program for so long. The importance of something like that toolkit and that guide is so key when creating such a massive program. How did the First Day Hikes program kind of go about figuring out what would really be important for people to know, and what can we kind of leave off so it doesn't get lost in the message, to really create a concise and succinct message that will be the most effective when you're just disseminating it without actually presenting it?
Yeah, and that's always the trick, because people have such good ideas and we all have our personal causes. So, I may be like, what if First Day Hikes share a message about the importance of animal wildlife rehabilitation? And then somebody else is like, well, my community has a problem with opiate abuse, so I think we should do First Day Hikes for reducing opiate abuse. Those are all great ideas, but what they do is they create mission creep and inconsistency, and it makes it harder and harder to communicate that. So you really brought up a good point of kind of narrowing down what is the purpose of a First Day Hike and what is it going to achieve. If individual sites want to tack that on for their site, that's fine, but we're probably not going to adopt that as a statewide initiative. We're really focused on getting new recreators to start their year out by building behaviors of using outdoor recreation. To focus on that, I'm using the wrong navigation button. We have a very simple 7-page user guide that we send out. In there, there is a checklist. So you can see if you take on this role of hosting a first day hike, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 responsibilities. So it's communicate your state's participation to your parks or areas you manage or the staff you work with. Order first day hike pins if you want them. Complete a Google Doc that has the information for posting your hikes. Share the national press release. Take someone you know on a first day hike and collect the state's participation information and submit your state's 22 information, and then share and post the national communications. It's all spaced out because we are all busy and we really want to make sure that it incorporates into people's lives. So this was the 2022 version. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the 2021 version because it has some resources in it that I think we will be using again for next year. So same number of steps, but there's a little bit of more information about variety of methods to post hikes. So we set up an event form that you can go to a web page, just type in your hike information. But if that's, some states like to collect them all at once and email me a spreadsheet of 40 hikes, and I can copy and paste that as long as they format it properly into the form. We have various swag items that we've partnered with BW Classics to do here. And then we have inspiration hikes, some fun things from the previous year, and then press releases that we send out so people can just plug in the blanks, both for the national press release and the local press release. And that's all there is to participating. So pretty simple, great program. And I think it really sends a message when all outdoor recreation providers take an opportunity to do something together. The only other day I can think that it surpasses first day hikes, but the only other day I can think about that has the same level of national and international impact is National Public Lands Day. And then probably Earth Day, but that extends to more sites than just outdoor recreation. And I think that's everything I have to share today. I thank everyone for joining us.
That sounds perfect. We really appreciate you joining us here today, Rob. And I know you have some more stuff in your very busy day that you have to get to, but like Rob said, I will be sending out a follow-up email with his contact information. So if you have any other questions for Rob, absolutely feel free to reach out to our office or Rob directly, and we will get you those answers. We really appreciate you joining us here today, and we will be sending out our survey as well after this presentation. We would appreciate if you could fill out the survey so we can get some feedback on continuously making the Outdoor Florida webinar series so much better than it can be, and really bringing you what you would like to hear and what you would like to see. We've also been recording this webinar, and we will be uploading that recording to our YouTube page and sending out that link this Friday. Feel free to share it with your friends, your coworkers, anyone you want, and rewatch it anytime you would like. I know that there are so many things that I'd love to go back and reread from Rob's presentation. So I hope everyone has a great rest of their day, and thank you again for joining us.